Bronny James doesn't belong in the NBA.
He didn't play well.
The Lakers ownership group has now delivered a message that could have major implications for Bronny James' future. In this video, we'll examine exactly what it means. As of May 24th, 2026, Bronny remains on the Lakers roster. But that's precisely why this situation has become so significant. The reasons that once justified keeping him are beginning to disappear, and the direction from the franchise's new leadership is becoming increasingly clear. Many people assume an owner sends a message through a public speech or headline-making interview. In reality, ownership often communicates through decisions and organizational philosophy, and in this case, both have already spoken loudly. Let's look at how we got here. The Lakers selected Bronny with the 55th overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft on June 27. The moment his name was called, reactions across the basketball world were sharply divided. Even live coverage on Pat McAfee's show reflected just how controversial the selection was. There was also considerable discussion about the circumstances surrounding the pick itself. Reports suggested that Rich Paul informed teams that Bronny could consider playing overseas if selected by a franchise other than the Lakers. Many viewed it as a unique display of influence that effectively guided him directly to Los Angeles. That history is exactly why questions about his future carry so much weight today. A roster position that was initially secured through influence and legacy can become vulnerable once those advantages no longer hold the same value. And so far, Bronny's NBA production has not provided the new ownership group with a compelling reason to protect his spot. During the past season, he appeared in 42 games while averaging 8.9 minutes per contest. He posted 2.9 points per game on 40.9% shooting, while connecting on a career-best 38.6% from beyond the arc. There are certainly encouraging moments. He scored 12 points against the Spurs while spending time defending Victor Wembanyama, and he followed that with an 11-point performance against Utah. His G League numbers with South Bay were considerably more impressive. He averaged roughly 15.6 points, 3.1 rebounds, and 3.6 assists per game, while shooting close to 56% overall and 45.6% from three-point range. He also produced multiple outings with 26 points or more. Those performances shouldn't be dismissed. The flashes of potential are legitimate. However, a front office committed to earning opportunities through performance isn't likely to guarantee an NBA roster spot based solely on limited success at the league level. That standard appears to be exactly what the new leadership is emphasizing. Bronny's repeated assignments to the G League reinforce that point. The organization has treated the process as an evaluation rather than a protection program, and up to this point, he hasn't done enough to force a different decision. The broader situation of the franchise is equally important. The Lakers moved Anthony Davis in a blockbuster trade that brought Luka Doncic to Los Angeles. The team's future now revolves around a 27-year-old superstar who is entering the heart of his prime years. For a team focused on winning immediately, every roster spot comes under scrutiny. That includes the one occupied by the son of the franchise's most recognizable player. This offseason only increases the pressure. Austin Reeves possesses a player option for the 2026-27 season and is widely expected to decline it. Meanwhile, the Lakers are looking to create maximum flexibility as they build around Doncic for the long term. In situations like that, smaller and more movable contracts are often the first ones evaluated, and Bronny's contract naturally falls into that category. To his credit, Bronny has remained consistent whenever the speculation surfaces. He has repeatedly stated that he ignores outside rumors, doesn't concern himself with LeBron's future plans, and keeps his attention focused on improving his game. LeBron has advised him to tune out the noise. Following the Lakers' playoff elimination, Bronny even said that his father should make whatever decision brings him the most happiness. That maturity is admirable. But maturity alone doesn't determine roster decisions. Ultimately, Bronny's future with the Lakers is not a decision he controls. It's being determined by the executives and owners now guiding the organization, and by the performance-based philosophy they appear committed to following.
My siblings, all wanting different things, made it very difficult to run the operation.
The family that helped create the Showtime era could no longer operate with a unified vision, and eventually the franchise changed hands. But this is where the story becomes more complicated. Jeannie Buss isn't completely out of the picture. She has publicly stated that she will remain involved during the transition period. In fact, the agreement reportedly includes a continuity arrangement that keeps her connected to the organization for at least 5 years. So why are so many Bronny supporters still uneasy about the Walter ownership era? Because the actions taken so far appear to reveal a very different philosophy. Less than a month after the sale was finalized in November 2025, the Lakers moved on from Joey and Jesse Buss, Jeannie's own brothers, removing them from their front office positions. These were executives who had played key roles in building the scouting infrastructure responsible for finding valuable contributors such as Austin Reeves and Max Christie. If family ties were not enough to guarantee job security, many observers felt the message was unmistakable. Winning would come before loyalty. The situation became even more public when Jesse openly questioned his sister's decision and the direction the franchise was taking. Then came a wave of new leadership influences. Walter began bringing trusted figures from the Dodgers organization into the Lakers' orbit, including Andrew Friedman, Farhan Zaidi, and longtime marketing executive Lon Rosen. One thing was becoming increasingly obvious. This was not going to be a nostalgia-driven operation. Even Magic Johnson was not expected to reclaim any front office influence. The focus shifted toward data, efficiency, and modern decision-making. Sentimental attachments appear to be taking a back seat, and according to reports extending into May 2026, additional organizational changes were still being planned. Ironically, Jeannie Buss herself had embraced this same type of tough decision-making in the past. She often referenced the symbolic hammer her father entrusted to her, the authority to make difficult choices when the Lakers' reputation was at stake. She never pretended that responsibility was easy. The organization had endured years of disappointment, and prolonged losing simply wasn't acceptable for a franchise with the Lakers' history. The expectation was always championships, not excuses. If difficult decisions were required to restore that standard, then those decisions had to be made regardless of personal relationships. That reality is why so many analysts draw comparisons between the previous regime and the current one. If Jeannie was willing to remove members of her own family in pursuit of success, then Walter, who has no personal obligation to the James family, could potentially be even more ruthless when evaluating roster decisions. One sports business journal analysis suggested that the arrival of Walter effectively reset the organization's priorities. The article argued that had Jeannie remained fully in control, LeBron might already have received a significant contract extension. The absence of such a deal has fueled speculation that the new leadership views the future very differently. Meanwhile, LA Times columnist Bill Plaschke pushed the conversation even further. His position was straightforward. The Lakers should move on from LeBron entirely and dedicate the next several years to building around Luka Doncic. If that strategy ultimately becomes the franchise's roadmap, then the original logic behind drafting Bronny could disappear overnight. The financial side of the discussion only adds to the uncertainty. Bronny signed a 4-year rookie contract on July 3, 2024, worth approximately $7.90 million. The first 2 seasons were fully guaranteed. However, the structure becomes much more flexible after that point. For the 2026-27 season, Bronny carries a cap figure of roughly $2.3 million, yet only a portion of that amount is guaranteed. That guarantee does not fully activate until late June 2026, giving the Lakers a clear decision point before additional money becomes locked in. The 4th year of the contract is even more team-friendly. It remains a team option and does not become guaranteed unless the organization chooses to exercise it. In other words, the Lakers maintain complete control over every major decision regarding Bronny's future. The timing of those contract provisions has attracted attention because they align almost perfectly with the possibility of LeBron departing the franchise. Should the Lakers decide to move on before the guarantee deadline, the financial impact would be minimal. Several analysts have described the potential cap consequences as almost negligible. Others have noted that the contract appears intentionally designed to provide flexibility during the exact off-season, when LeBron's future could become uncertain. The broader salary cap situation strengthens that argument even further. Only a small group of players enter the 2026-27 season with fully guaranteed contracts, including Luka Doncic, Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia, and Dalton Connect. The Lakers are expected to pursue significant cap flexibility as they continue constructing the roster around Luka's prime years. In that environment, partially guaranteed contracts at the end of the bench become natural targets for roster restructuring. Bronny's deal fits that description almost perfectly. Yahoo Sports referred to the upcoming season as a defining evaluation year, while also describing the final option season as a valuable contract asset because of its flexibility. Ultimately, the harshest version of the argument is also the simplest. Bronny remains one of the easiest players on the roster to move financially. If the Lakers chose to part ways, the salary cap would barely notice the difference the following day. And this isn't merely a hypothetical scenario. The Lakers have already demonstrated a willingness to make difficult roster decisions when they believe it benefits the organization. Kyler Kelly, the 7-foot center, became one of the early examples of how quickly those decisions can happen when management believes a roster spot can be used more effectively. The new Lakers regime has already shown that no roster spot is untouchable. Players on non-guaranteed deals have been released quickly, including promising young talent like Kobe Bufkin, proving that potential alone isn't enough to guarantee security. That reality brings the spotlight directly back to Bronny James. Since draft night, he has faced a level of scrutiny rarely seen for a late second-round pick. Critics have long argued that his selection was driven more by family connections than basketball merit, with Rich Paul's efforts to guide him to Los Angeles only adding fuel to the debate. The criticism intensified after reports suggested that Bronny entered the NBA as a raw prospect facing enormous pressure, limited development opportunities, and impossible expectations because of his connection to LeBron James. Many analysts questioned whether placing such an inexperienced player under the brightest spotlight in basketball was ever a fair situation. The controversy reached another level when Stephen A. Smith publicly criticized the situation, leading to a highly publicized confrontation with LeBron during a Lakers game. At the same time, reports of internal tensions within the Lakers organization created further speculation about how committed the franchise truly was to Bronny's long-term future. On the court, inconsistent performances, viral lowlights, and constant criticism from fans and media continued to fuel the narrative. Adding to the challenge was Bronny's health history, including the cardiac arrest he suffered in 2023, which some scouts believed affected both his development and pre-draft evaluation process. Taken together, Bronny's story has become far bigger than basketball. It's a mix of expectations, criticism, family legacy, organizational change, and constant public scrutiny. And with the Lakers entering a new era focused on results, his future with the franchise remains one of the most closely watched questions in the NBA.